Okay. So I'm going to chant first this introductory verse from our guru, our grandfather guru, which is on page 7. Vande Shri Guru Gaurango Radha Govinda Sundaro Sagunau Giyate Chata Gita Gudart Gauravam. Bowing down to the holy feet of Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Sri Radha Govinda Sundar, all accompanied by their associates, I sing the glories of the hidden treasure of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we are on chapter 2, middle of chapter 2. We reached verse 40. And so this is a wonderful verse, very encouraging verse in the practice of devotion. So, He abhikramo nashosti pratyavayo navidyate salpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato mayat. On this path, there can be no loss and no harm. The slightest practice of such a spiritual ideal saves one from the greatest fear. And I'll read this. Oh, maybe first I'll just, because one point which isn't mentioned in the commentary. So this is the line which is very, and welcome to Narottam Prabhu, who's joined us too. So this is a very encouraging point, that whatever progress you make on the path of devotion, it will never be lost. It will always, because it is in connection with the eternal plane. One very nice way that our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, explained this point is he said, whatever is done in connection with the eternal plane, it will have an eternal result. Normally, our activity in this world is in connection with the temporary, with temporary things of temporary value, things that have temporary significance. And so the result is also temporary and limited and relative to a particular time, place, and circumstance. But whatever we can do in connection with the eternal plane, whatever we can offer to the eternal plane, it may be something very meager, and it may only be for a short time, but it will remain there. That wealth, whatever grace, spiritual wealth we received as a result of that offering, it will not leave us. It will remain with us. And it's something that's encouraging for ourselves as individuals. And it also helps to give some compassionate perspective on the endeavors of our fellow practitioners. Because what we see often is that, persons will come and take the practice up, but after some time they go in another direction, right? And that may be for different reasons. It may be that some previous karma came, and that can be so-called good karma or bad karma. Actually, in the Bhakti book, all karma is bad karma, actually. Because karma means something that is reactionary, and that is binding you more with this temporary plane. Karma means something that binds you more with this temporary plane. So whether it's good karma or bad karma, it's all karma. So like, for example, one of our friends, he was living in one of our temples and, contributing in a very beautiful way. And then he received a large inheritance from one of his relatives. And within like a few months, he'd spent it all like partying, and then he ended up leaving. He got completely sidetracked, because of this material wealth. He got completely sidetracked from his spiritual ideal. So you can say, right, that's good karma, but that good karma did not equal good spiritual life. You know, it turned out to be the opposite of that. You know? So, and then there's also, you know, what we might conventionally call bad karma that can take us away. You know, some trouble in our life that can absorb us, take us away from the path. You know, so that may happen. You know, also, you know, on a more subtle sphere, different material tendencies, they may again rise up and predominate more in our consciousness. You know, that cloud, you know, it's like we see in the sky, you know, sometimes the sun is shining brightly and sometimes the clouds are coming and obscuring, right? So in the same way, you know, when we are in a higher place in our consciousness, you know, that light, that sun is shining and we see things with clarity. We feel that spiritual connection, we feel that spiritual inspiration. But then the clouds may come, you know, and obscure. And, you know, we are, you know, we are embodied souls. We are souls who are under the influence of this material environment. And our spirit of devotion is not developed. It's not strong enough to be able to prevail in all the circumstances that we face and all these different material tendencies and desires, you know, that come up. And it you know, it can be discouraging sometimes, you know, but we always, you know, when we see these, you know, like when as our faith becomes stronger, then we'll know sometimes, then we'll have that clarity at least, like, I just need to hold out here. The sun's gonna come. You know, it's like one of my friends expressed it once. It's like, you go out, it's a rainy day, put your raincoat on. Wait for the rain to pass. So we will have those days when we are overcome by kam, krodh, lobh, moha, mada, matsarja, lust, anger, greed, madness, delusion. You know, all these things will come and bewilder us. These clouds will come and obscure our consciousness. But we have to keep that remembrance in the background. This will pass soon. I won't let myself be tied down by this. I remember one time I was flying out of Italy, Milan, and it was like a very gray, you know, rainy day. You know, just you look at the sky full of these dark gray clouds, and I was taking a flight, and then there was a certain point we came to in the sky as we're going upwards where we were above the clouds and the sun was shining so brilliantly and beautifully, and I was so happy to see that. You know, I would never forget that. It was so encouraging for me. You know, and I thought to myself, yes, the sun is always there. The light is always there. It's just sometimes the clouds are covering, but we can't forget that the sun is still there. The sun hasn't left. But sometimes, you know, for persons whose faith is not yet developed enough, then, you know, these clouds may come and take them away for some time. You know, they will identify with those clouds. But when we see that happen, we will remain hopeful. You know, we will think, you know, this person, they will be back. You know, now they have to play out, you know, this samskar, you know, play out this tendency, you know, but they will be back. You know, when the environment is again favorable for them, they will be back. They will see the sun again, and they will may not be this lifetime, it may be in another lifetime, but we are on an eternal path. We are on an eternal journey. They will be back. Because whatever they gained, it will not leave them. It is like Kunti, she's a plant expert actually. And I remembered, I came across this article, you can confirm, about these seeds that I think it was in Egypt. And like they were just these seeds. They'd been in some sterile environment for something like 1,000 years. Mm-hmm. And then they planted them and they grew. Have you heard about, you've heard about stuff like
not sterile, just no water in. It can be
Right, if they're not
pot.
being watered.
That can be in a clay pot.
But then even so many years later, you can still plant them and they'll grow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, isn't that incredible? Mm-hmm. I was so inspired to hear that. So it's like we use this analogy. Our gurus use this analogy, the bhakti lata bij. Bhakti, devotion, lata means a creeper, a vine, and bij means seed. So when we have come in connection with the true saint, with the Sadguru, we receive that seed of the creeper of devotion, and that remains within our hearts, that remains within our consciousness. And it may be dormant for thousands of years. But when the environment is favorable, when you give that water, right? Kunti was also telling me, I had no idea. She was telling me that it actually helps some seed, herbal seeds, that you freeze them. She has some in the freezer here. Marie's nodding her head. She's heard about this. My mind was blown. I had no idea about that. And so you're meant to freeze them for some time, and then you plant them after that. So when the conditions are favorable, then that seed will sprout. So, if we're not watering that seed, if we're not nourishing, giving the fertilizer, the sunlight to the seed, it will remain dormant, right? But as soon as but it's still there, right? In the potential form, all the properties of that seed are still present in a potential form. And Marie's saying nasturtiums you have to score and soak in the fridge, so it thinks it's spring when it so yeah, that wealth that we've received from the divine plane, it may be dormant, it may be covered for some period of time, but when the conditions are right, it will manifest. So it is something very encouraging to contemplate about ourselves, and also, it encourages us to have a broad view and positive view when we see how some persons they may come and go. And I've also witnessed how some practitioners they go for some years and they're back, and then they come back. Somebody contacted me last year. She joins this movement in the 80s, and then 30 years had passed by, and she contacted me, and she wanted to get connected. She got some new inspiration. So Gangalila, did you want to say something?
No, you actually brought it right where I was thinking that's going in my head, but then you brought it back to that, because I was thinking really how inspiring, and I was thinking that the seed doesn't think like, oh, I think I should do this now. It is just the environment is right, so the seed really do the deciding when it moves forward. Because I think as humans we have the self-will is so developed, so it's like, okay, now I think I should do that, but it's like when the environment is ready, then it will just continue. When I was thinking that, and I wanted to share, you were saying that devotee, came back after 30 years because the environment was right. That was really nice. Thank you for that.
Oh, nice. Thank you for sharing, Gangalila. Okay, so that's one point, and that's the point that we generally hear emphasized by our gurus in regards to this verse. And then another point we'll hear in this purport is that let's read it. But here there's this phrase here, mahato boyat. Maha boy means boy is fear, maha great. So the great fear, that the slightest practice of this ideal will save us from the greatest fear. So we'll hear about that in this commentary by our grandfather Guru Sridhar Maharaj. Maha boy, the greatest fear, is generally considered to be the fear of repeated birth and death in this world. But Maha boy also refers to Sayujya Mukti, the liberation of merging into the impersonal, non-differentiated consciousness of Brahmaloka, Viraja, or a kind of impersonal samadhi. Renunciation alone leads to Sayujya Mukti, the cessation of birth and death, but not to a life in the positive plane. It takes one to a permanent burial in Brahmalok. The demon of Mukti, liberation, will devour one wholesale, and therefore it is even more dangerous than this ordinary life of action and reaction. Mukti means a strike in the organic system, so it must be avoided. For example, to either ignore duties in a factory or to declare a strike by cessation of duties are both abnormal. Another, this is a point that Srila Sridhar Maharaj has emphasized, and we have one beautiful book, Home Comfort, which I think most of you are familiar with, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses this more extensively there. That only in the expression of dedication, that is where the full nature of the soul can be happily expressed. He calls it there's a very nice phrase in another place, actually, the healthy, the normal, healthy, wholesome expression of the soul is in dedication, and anything else is abnormal. And he also mentions, gives the example of the body, which I found very helpful. If we look at how a healthy body is functioning, every cell, every organ has a particular contribution to make, and if they're all, contributing that for the good of the whole, then it's a healthy body. But if a cell or organ decides to go on strike, to not just stop working, that creates disease, right? And the opposite is also true. If there's a cell or organ that is taking more resources, than the others, trying to take more, for one particular part of the body, that also will result in disease. And welcome to Seva Rupa Didi joining us from South Africa. Dandavat.
Dandavat.
And that, if we look at how natural, Srila Sridhar Maharaj uses this expression a lot, which maybe sometimes is not always so understood. He uses this expression, or organic whole. He says, we are living within an organic whole. And Kunti, she's actually really expert, and she's a really sophisticated gardener, and like she was talking about companion planting earlier. Like a real gardener, they plant in such a way, like every plant is supporting the surrounding plants. Like there's a whole science to it. So in a healthy ecosystem, every part has its particular contribution to make towards the whole. This is real life, and really the problem with humans is that we're going against this natural order, because we have this advanced consciousness, which is a gift, but we misuse that gift. We misuse that gift in the spirit of selfishness, and we impose, rather than working with, harmonizing with the existing environment, we impose our own selfish agenda on the environment. And that creates problems, that creates disruption. So therefore, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying here that anything other than dedication, anything other than bhakti, devotion, is fearful, unnatural, abnormal. Okay, we'll continue here. Bhukti, exploitation, and mukti, renunciation, are both fearsome ghosts. Therefore, here, Mahaboy means the great apprehension of falling prey to both the ghost of exploitation leading to birth and death, as well as the ghost of committing suicide by merging into the impersonalism of incarceration and Brahmalok. Fear of both Bhoga Bhumi, the land of exploitation, and Tyaga Bhumi, the plain of renunciation. It is stated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bhukti Mukti Spriya Javat Pishachi Hridivartate Tavad Bhakti Sukhasyatra Katam Abhyudayo Bhavat. So this is quite a famous verse that is cited by our gurus in the Bhakti school, where the spirit of bhukti is referring to the spirit of exploitation, selfish enjoyment. And mukti is the other side of that, the spirit of renunciation, rejection. So these are both compared to two ghosts. And so it's saying that as long as someone is like infected by someone's heart is infected by these two ghosts, then how can they ever come to experience the joy of bhakti? How can they ever come to experience the joy of devotion? The ecstasy of devotion to Krishna will never appear in a heart that is haunted by the ghosts of exploitation and renunciation. And then this is another significant verse. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma janavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. The highest devotion is that which is cultivated for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Krishna, with no desire except to serve him, and divested of all external attempts, such as worldly action, knowledge in search of the impersonal absolute, or the meditational attempts to become one with God. I see Kelly's trying to join us, but she's having some trouble connecting to audio.
Seeds don't just grow because of water. There's millions of seeds everywhere. So like dandelion seeds are everywhere, but they only grow because they're the medicine of what is needed there. So it's actually a lot deeper than that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm saying it in a crude way. Yeah.
It's intelligence, and that's usually not really taught in conventional school.
Yeah.
But it is a fact. That there's this intelligence.
We can't hear her.
Oh, you have to come come closer. She's just explaining that that in order for a seed to grow, there are so many different factors in the environment that are required. The conditions have to be just right.
Not just conditions, because there's hundreds of millions of seeds everywhere. Like even dandelion, they're everywhere. And it's not just because it waters that they'll grow. I mean, of course, if we sow it in trays, they'll grow, but seeds grow because they're the medicine of the environment. So like a dandelion will wake up, because certain minerals have to be mined there, or different weeds and such. Or they have certain functions that are medicine for the soil and the environment. So it's actually not just water, because there's hundreds of millions of seeds everywhere. It's a lot deeper than that of when the seeds are, flourish and what they're giving.
Sure.
Bringing. Anyway, just want to say that.
Yeah, I was reducing it. I shouldn't have said that in front of a professional gardener. I reduced it to a very crude, simplistic overview. But by water, I meant water as representative of all the different factors. Marie also sounds like an expert gardener. She says it's just not safe to talk about plants in front of some of us. Okay. I won't use plant analogies in front of
Oh, please
gardeners.
Do, please do.
Oh, it's such a good one, though. It's such a good one. It's so, it's, I
I
sit sort of in my-
understand plant analogies.
Well, I'll just have to preface by saying, please excuse me if I miss out some of the fine details. This analogy is given by our gurus, it's super helpful. Anyway, I won't say anything more on that topic or I'll get into trouble again. Okay, she says I'm not in trouble. Is this in the Madhurya Kadambini? This is maybe, I've never been through that text, but in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives that analogy himself. There's a chapter, if you want to look it up, it's Madhya Leela, I believe, chapter 19, Rupa Shiksha, Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Rupa Goswami. And the analogy is quite elaborate there. And it also describes other conditions which are used as analogies, but we won't get into all of that right now. But it is in the text, Chaitanya Charitamrita, for those who do want to go into more. Okay, so going back to where we were. Oh yeah, so this second verse here that we just heard. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma janavritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. So one really interesting point here, and unfortunately certain things do get lost in translation sometimes. But the word that's actually used, avritam, means like a covering. And in fact, I think that's in the next chapter. That same word is used in an analogy given in the third chapter. But anyway, this is what is so wonderful and so encouraging, that these tendencies, the tendencies for exploitation and the tendencies for artificial renunciation, these are coverings on the soul. It's not that we are inherently bad. We are inherently evil. There are some philosophies like that. There are some philosophies. Our friend, we have another gardener here, Ethan, he shared this one book. He doesn't believe it himself, but it's this Confucian philosopher. I've forgotten his name. But he has some really cool ideas. But one of his fundamental beliefs was that we're all inherently evil, and we just have to find a way to manage that through education and training. It's very sad. But he lived in a very difficult time in China, where there was a lot of exploitation of the royalty and government, and so it's understandable that he had that kind of belief. But there are some belief systems like that we're all just inherently bad, and we just have to try to manage it, try to control it as best as we can. And welcome to Kelly. Wonderful to have you with us. You finally were able to connect your audio. Oh, Marie is saying some Christian traditions have the same misconception. Yeah. And Charu Damodar has also joined us. Welcome.
Dhanavat.
Yeah, also Dandavat's,
Hi, Kelly, beloved Kelly, we've been missing you. Kelly, I want you to meet Kunti. This is our dear sister Kunti. I hope you can meet sometime.
Very nice. I hope so too. So it's wonderful to see you, and I'm looking forward to your words. So
Kelly has a really beautiful place in Ojai, and she hosted us there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, and I want you back at the end of July. So put that in your teacup.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't reply to your. I'm still working out my schedule, but I think maybe it will be possible. Yeah, we'll connect on that.
Very good. Thank you.
So this is so encouraging. That these tendencies, they are coverings. They are coverings, but essentially, intrinsically, we are pure good. No. And essentially, we are of the nature of devotion. We are by nature loving, dedicating, contributing units. Oh, sorry, Kelly, could you turn your mic off? or maybe our host can you Marie, can you
Maybe if you
close? I can't. I'm not.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not a.
Oh, pardon.
Yeah. Okay. So so only the Supreme Lord is Abai, beyond apprehension. Therefore, nothing but participation in his service can free one from the ghosts of exploitation and renunciation, bhukti and mukti. Now, this line I really like. Tungarasa, just we've got lots of comments popping up here. Our group's getting really excited. So please take a look at the comments. But Tungarasa is saying here, yeah, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, she does give that nice analogy that these tendencies are like mushrooms. So why the mushroom analogy, Kunti? They don't have any firm rooting in the soil, right? You just pick them right up. So similarly, these lower tendencies, they are like that. They don't have any firm rooting in the soil.
And they grow really fast.
And they grow really fast.
Wow.
So I really like this line. If we subtract bhukti and mukti, then only positive bhakti, devotion, is the remainder. You know, it's like also, I think you were mentioning this the other day, you know, like if we just leave nature to itself, like she can heal herself, right? She has that capacity. If we stop, you know, dumping,
Stop waiting.
you know, if we stop imposing, you know, these, you know, artificial substances, you know, nature can heal herself. So, you know, if we remove these coverings, if we remove these outer layers, these artificial impositions, what's left behind is the gold. You know, what's left behind is what's beautiful and perfect. So it's very, very encouraging, very, very hopeful. But then at the same time, the other side is true, you know, without devotion, everything is fearful. If we subtract bhukti and mukti, then only positive bhakti, devotion, is the remainder. Therefore, without devotion, everything is mahapoy, great danger. And I wanted to, because that's abnormal, right? Anything other than in the expression of devotion, it is abnormal. And it is reactionary, it is entangling, you know, ultimately does not bring us to a happy end, to a joyful end. Ganga Lila Maha, sorry, are you trying to clarify what the word I'm saying? Ganga Lila?
Yes. Is it poi, like P-O-I, Mahapoi?
It's a boy. I don't know if you're following.
Boy, with a G.
No, I'll type it here.
It's just, I've never heard it, and I'm very
This
very
is
interested to learn that.
This is the expression Srila Sridhar Maharaj is discussing. I'm saying it with a more of a Bengali pronunciation.
Oh, Mahabaya.
Yeah, yes. In Sanskrit, you'll say more by, but Bengali, they pronounce more of the O sound, Mahaboy.
I see.
So
Thank you.
I'm probably not getting any pronunciation right.
Thank you.
So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's explaining here that generally, you know, Mahaboy, this is something discussed in the scriptures. What is the great fear? It is the fear of death, right? But Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying it's the fear, or rather the fear of repeated birth and death, being in this entanglement of this cycle of samsara. But then Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying from the perspective of bhakti, from the perspective of devotion, merging into the eternal oneness, achieving mukti, that is also a fearful condition to be in. Why? Because there's no devotion there. You are in this passive state where there's no devotion, there's no love, there's no connection of dedication to the divinity, to our beloved Lord. So that is also a fearful, and some will even consider that to be more fearful, because once you're there, you're kind of stuck there for a really long time. Could be billions of years. Whereas if somebody is active in this world, even if they're just engaged in ordinary worldly activity, because they're active, they have the opportunity of offering some service to the divinity, to the higher plane. If they come in connection with the saint, if you open a door for a saint, that begins your spiritual journey. If we take some of the wonderful herbs that Kunti is growing and they get offered to Krishna, they get offered to the devotees, to the saints, and that plant gets an upgrade. So just being active in this world in whatever way, even in a very basic way, you're leaving the door open, right? So that some higher grace can come and touch you and uplift you, and put you on the path. But if you're like stuck in this, that's why this like generic conception of samadhi, from the perspective of devotion, it's considered to be like a kind of spiritual suicide. You're entering just this plane of oneness. There's no activity there. You're just absorbed in this trance, but there's no connection with the higher dynamic spiritual plane. And I wanted to mention one other thing here, just one little anecdote. And we were remembering this a few days ago. We were honoring the birthday of one saint and teacher in our line called Jajavar Maharaj, because Sridhar Maharaj mentioned in this purport that the Lord is Abhoy. Now, boy is fear. Abhoy means free from fear, no fear. There's one beautiful expression in the scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, saying, I don't remember the Sanskrit, but saying that it's describing the Lord as he whom fear himself is fearful of. Fear runs away. Fear personified runs away from the Lord. So he is situated in a plane that is beyond all fear. And so the story I wanted to tell is he's called Jajavar Maharaj. He was one very saintly teacher in our lineage. And he was a godbrother, spiritual brother of our grandfather Guru. And so he took up the order of renunciation at quite a young age, like, late 20s or 30, something like that. And in the traditional Vedic system, sannyas, the renounced order, it's something that you normally take at the end of your life. When you're like 50 or 60, you've completed family life, all your material desires have been expelled, and you're ready to give it all up. So for someone to take young, it's quite unusual in the Vedic traditional culture. So anyway, his guru requested him at a fairly young age to take up this renounced order, and he was going to do that. And then some of his friends and relatives kind of got in his ear, and, oh, you're so young and you're so handsome, are you sure you're going to be able to maintain this? And so then he started to feel some apprehension. Oh, maybe they're right. I won't really be able to stick it out, And so this came to Gangalila saying end of life at 50. No, I didn't. Oh, no. I'm in trouble. No, I didn't mean it like that.
I shall be prepared for my death now any second.
No, I didn't mean that. I meant what I meant was once someone has the normal child rearing age. Yeah. Thank you, Marie. Retirement age. Yeah. Once they've finished with raising children and had their, you know, life.
It's a whole phase from like 50 up to 100. I have a lot of time for my spiritual life.
Right.
That's
Right. That's the idea, from 50 up to 120. I'm sure you're going to be with us till 120. You know, that's when you go more deeply into spiritual culture. This is the traditional Varnashrama model, the social religious model of India. I had to be careful with my words. So he was feeling this apprehension. Am I really going to be able to stick this out? And then this came to his guru. He heard that his dear disciple was feeling fearful. And so he called for him. And he told him, you are going to take shelter of the plane that is beyond all fear. Where you are going, fear does not exist. So how can you be fearful? How does it make sense that you are fearful? Where you're going, fear doesn't exist. And so that gave him a lot of encouragement. Okay, so we've actually finished. Well, we finished one verse today. And the second verse is also a really wonderful verse I'm excited about. But maybe we should pause there for today, because we're coming to the end of our meeting. Does anyone want to share some reflections or questions or anything at all here in our last few moments? Seva Rupa, do you have any thoughts you want to share?
I'm just so happy to be in your association again with all the devotees. I really missed you guys. And it was a lovely class. I loved all the humor as well. And some deep comments. Everybody's just so blissful and lovely. And yeah, it's what I needed after a full day of work. Thank you.
It's your nighttime there in South Africa, isn't it?
Yes, it's almost 8 o'clock.
Okay, it's almost 8. Okay. Well, it's always really wonderful having you with us, Seva Rupa, really.
I have gardener friends in South Africa if she ever needs a garden.
For me.
Yeah, I have garden and farm friends there. Organic.
Wow.
We went to school together.
That's wonderful. I know nothing about gardening and I'm hopeless at plants. So I would love that.
Are you there by yourself, or is there a community of Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Math in South Africa? Actually, I have a few friends in South Africa that, you know, I'm sure would love to be in the association of the devotees.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
well,
amazing.
I'll have to connect you with Seva
Mhm.
Rupa. There is a temple there.
community?
Mhm,
Really?
There is, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll send them that way.
Amazing.
From Norway, that come back and forth to Norway and England from South Africa. A famous swimmer. She's like underwater ice swimmer. She's South African, 43. Amber.
Oh, they'll love to meet Seva Rupa. Anyone else want to share anything? Charu Damodar Prabhu, do you want to share anything today? Oh, maybe he's busy right now. Okay. Anyone else? Any final reflections before we close for today? Okay, well, let's end with a preview. I'll just chant this verse 41, and then there's a really beautiful commentary on this, which I want to share with you all. I'll save it for next week. But this is the verse 41. Vyavavasatmika mudir hekeha kurunandana bahushakaya nantascha Buddhayo Vyavasayinam. O descendant of the Kuru dynasty, Arjuna, resolute intelligence dedicated to me is one-pointed. I am its only objective. But irresolute intelligence is splayed by endless desires for mundane enjoyments. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Close our reading of Srimad Bhagavad Gita here for today. And maybe Ganga Leela, are you available to close our meeting with a prayer, as you always do so nicely?
Hare Krishna. How about Chintamani? She's been so awfully quiet. She must be working.
Well, she's been in and out. I didn't see that she's back.
Oh, okay.
Back.
And I don't know. I feel like inspired to look at my favorable environment and look for myself of what that means today. Because we talked about that with the plants and, and here's just one little prayer I know. It's the Purnamidam Purnamidam Purnat Purnamidakshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishante. And it's something like everything is whole, and from that whole, even if we take it, what remains is still whole. So that makes me think of that seed there, what's been sitting there for thousands of years. So we can all unmute and just, if we like and we can join with the 3 Maha Mantras. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Wonderful. Well, that was beautiful.
Maharaj Ki Jai, all the assembled devotees Maharaj Ki Jai, and all the big Maharaj Ki Jais for our gurus.
Jai. Haribol. Okay, we're wishing you all a wonderful week ahead and look forward to next time.
Thank you, Vishaka Didi. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sulalita.
Dhanavad, thank you.